continue our theme, it's wintertime, with the diesel heaters. I've had a couple different companies reach out. I did a video a couple weeks ago. I'll put it up here if you haven't seen it. That heater is a little more on the expensive side. So VEVOR reached out and said, do you want to display one of ours? And I said, absolutely, because my original diesel heater is a VEVOR. And I've had that now for a year and a half or so, 2 winters. Works perfectly. It's just older technology. It doesn't have the Bluetooth app. The screen's hard to see, things like that. And it's the short, fat version of it. This one is the taller, thinner, which I think will be better for certain applications, you know, where you got to squeeze it into a nice little narrow spot, and you don't have to plan on putting anything on top of it. But let's get it open. Let's see what it's all about. All right, today for our opening and cutting pleasure is our Benchmade Super Freak. What's that? Oh, that's our heat bezel. These are a 2-piece unit. You just literally got to find where it's at. Then it slips down in there, and then you twist lock it. Of course, it's going to struggle with me right now, but there we go. So, just together. All right, it's in the foam. Instructions. Okay. Here we go. Right out the gate. Looks like we've got our fuel sight gauges, you know, so you can see the fuel content. We've got our remote, which is sitting over here. And I know they like to attach it to things. So my other one came too. That was a little harder. We'll deal with that. There's our screen. This is our output hose, which goes right here. Probably 3.5 inch. We'll have to check it. It's probably just like my other one. There's our intake hose. There's our exhaust output. There's our filter for the input. All our hose clamps. The muffler for the exhaust. And then this is new. This is not something they've included in the past. Well, not with my original one. So that's kind of nice. So this is a heat shrink, basically, to go over the exhaust, which that's great because that's been the #1 issue with the diesel heaters, especially the ones that have the exhaust that comes out of the bottom like this, because you end up having to bend it at such a tight angle. And so on my original one, I actually took these little legs. I should get them and I'll show them to you at some point. And I put these little feet on here to try and make it a little bit taller, so that the exhaust could clear and wouldn't burn anything. Most people took them and actually put some 2x4s here and here just to get a little bit of room, because trying to get this thing to bend, you know, to get out of here is a little on the difficult side. But so this is good to see. I'm happy to see that. That's an upgrade compared to the last time. Now, the one thing that they do here that was nice on the last one, so when it's time to put, for example, the exhaust on there, so you put it on the exhaust like this, and you put the clamp right here, you can't, you know, get in there to tighten it, but what they do is they give you this little slot right here on the side that you can put your screwdriver through to get to the hose clamps that you're actually going to attach there, which is kind of nice. Now, they were supposed to send me the 8 kilowatt version, which is what I currently have, but I happened to look at the box, and the box says It's the 5 kilowatt version. So this could be a little, you know, not near as powerful as the 8 kilowatt, which is fine. So these are also new here. The other unit that I have from these guys, it's screwed on. So these have the clips here so we can actually slide the top off and do our basic inspection inside. Like that. So we can check all our connections, make sure that all our little clamps are where they need to be. So let me do that, and then we'll come back to you. All right, so everything looks pretty good. You know, these things are just simply thrown together, you know, so like this is a little kinked, but it looks like it'll work fine. Doesn't look like it's going to cause any issues. Some of these little screws are sticking out here, which probably should be filed down or nipped off just to keep the sharp edges away from the fuel tank. But that's just little maintenance things that you want to do. You want to check, you know, when you get them, you start setting them up. I mean, they're just slammed together. So I did bring in this guy, which is my 8. So that's my 8, and these are the legs. And I use little jam nuts there to, you know, adjust the height with it. But as you can see, otherwise the exhaust pipe is just laying on the table. So you can see the difference in the form factor here on how much space it takes up. You can slip this little guy into a tiny little space if you need to. Depending on what your application is, if you're going to use this to heat up a garage or a shop or something like that, the 5000 might be a little small. But if you're using it to heat up a small little space like my little shop right here, and or a rooftop tent, or just a little small gazebo area, the 5000 is probably just fine. But in this particular case, I'm looking at the pricing right now, there's literally only a $10 difference between the 5 and the 8, so you might as well just get the 8. So get our top back on. Don't send you with any additional plugs, so you get basically just 2 leads, and it has a lot to do with the fact that these tend to require 13 amps to get the glow plugs heated up, warmed up. So what we'll do is we'll connect this cord, which is from the larger unit that I already have. We'll get that connected, and then we'll test it and see if it'll actually work from a power station. All right, so I came out here, we put a little bit of fuel in there. It's not even up to the 20%, it's at the 10% mark. We brought our power station out, connect that. I don't think it's gonna run it, we'll test it, just because I don't think there's enough amps. And which is funny because the 8 kilowatt unit that I showed you will run off a power station. It's odd. So we'll test it, see what happens. If not, we'll go and connect it to a regular battery. So let's press start. We'll let it do its thing. Press power over here. Start heating. All right, so as you just saw, it failed. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna disconnect this here. We'll get this guy out of the way, and we'll go get a regular battery and connect it to it to get it fired up. All right, get that there, get that out of the way. Just enough to make it work, I think. Okay. Let's see if that was good enough. Power's on, yep, we're good. Start heating. I think what I'm gonna do is actually pull the cover off it during this initial startup, just so I can monitor for leaks or anything in there. There's the famous diesel heater ticking. It comes from the fuel pump here. Got a little smoke coming out the bottom, which is good. Means the glow plugs are actually heating up. Yep, there we go. She's working now. So you do have to have some kind of a battery source for this. This is just not going to work with the power stations. I don't think any of the new ones are. The last one I tested didn't work. This one didn't work. I've got one more we're going to test for you guys. I don't think it's going to work either. Yeah, it's definitely warming up right there. I'm definitely a little on the louder side just because we don't have the exhaust pipe on it and or the muffler. I'm letting it blow down onto this, but actually that's quite hot. I think we're going to have to do something a little different here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this little piece of wood in here. That way if the heat does any damage to the wood, I don't care. Yeah, she's making plenty of heat now. Let's take our remote and we'll hit the plus a couple times here. There it goes, 84, 86, 87. 93.2, says it's 73 now. So we can hear it ramping up, obviously. There you go, so now you can hear much quieter with the exhaust on it. All right, let's get some temperatures on this. It says that's 310 degrees. Wow. The muffler itself, 86 to 83. Inside the heat exchanger, also 300 degrees on the heat exchanger. Let's just crank this thing up to high. High on this, 96.8 degrees. That's as high as it'll go. I like these for just emergencies. You know, if you have power failure, like we've had a couple different power failures in the middle of winter, which means we couldn't run our heater. Then one time we actually had a big snowstorm here, short-circuited the heater board, and so we didn't have a heater for 3 days, and it was, you know, down in the 20s for 3 days. So one of these at the time, I think I didn't have these yet. One of these would have been perfect. I could have just, you know, taken the dryer hose, piped it into a room, and at least had a nice warm room. Yeah, I think you can have, you know, one of these to have, you know, reliable heat anywhere. You could use them in a tent. You could use them in, like I said, any outdoor, small outdoor space that's enclosed, you know, where you can trap the heat. You can use them in case of an emergency. You know, there's, like I said, there's nothing to them. They're very simple. I think if you want to try and replace the fuel pump, if it ever goes bad on you, it's like $56. You know, you might as well just toss the whole thing and start anew. But yeah, LED controls. It also has the Bluetooth app. I didn't bother setting that up. You've seen it probably before if you've seen it on any other videos. But you can already see right here, possibly, that it's burning that wood right there. And that is, yeah, 300 degrees right there. So you have to be very cognizant of where you run these exhaust pipes through because of the heat. And I think they're more designed to be permanently installed in something where you can drill a hole through the, you know, floorboard of something and run it straight down, and you can put the you know, the baffles. There's little exhaust baffles you can put on that actually transfer all the heat away from the wall or the floor or whatever it's going through. All right, so I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and shut it off at this point with the power. Yep. So turn off, and if you've watched any of my other videos on these, it goes through a whole power down cycle where it stops making hot air, and then it'll sit here and run for 3, 4, 5 minutes where it just blows cold air across the heat exchanger to try and cool it down. So you never want to just kill the power to them. Just turn them off, let them do their thing, and when they're done, they're done. And so usually by the time it stops blowing any air out of here, it'll be done. If you don't, it causes a bunch of buildup inside the heat exchanger, and it actually can ruin them pretty quick. I think that's going to be it for this one, guys. I mean, you know, like I said, these are pretty simple to show you and set them up. And this one, I thought you guys might want to see this one because it's a much more affordable version than the previous ones that I've shown you and the one I'm going to show you. But this is one of those where it's like, you know, like I said, 129 bucks or whatever it was. You know, you can just get this and not worry about it. You know, if something happens to it, if it burns up, it's one of those where, you know, if you have a, you know, $300, $400, $500, $600 one and something happens to it, you're going to be pretty sour, you know. So I will put a link for this one down in the description. And if you use the link, you'll probably save a few bucks, and it always helps me a little bit. But I appreciate you guys watching this one, and we will catch you guys on the next video. The next one's going to be another heater, so just prepare. But thanks again for watching, guys. Appreciate it.